Hello and welcome to Sperian's Sensitive Data Platform Custom Reports and Future Updates webinar. My name is Dave Zern, and I am the Customer Marketing Manager here at Sperian, and I just wanted to go through a couple of quick housekeeping details for you. As an FYI, this webinar will be recorded, and we will send you out an email of that recording later on. Each window is customizable, so you'll be able to move everything around if you need to throughout. We'll also be presenting in both slides and media so that you have those available for you. And if you have any questions, concerns, anything you need help with, please click on the help box and we will help you. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Ryan, who will get us started.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dave. So very quickly on our agenda here, we will gloss over our introduction pretty quickly, but we want to dive into one of our newest features here at Sperian, which is our custom reporting feature, and a little bit of the background behind why are we doing this, right? Why is it valuable? How's it interesting potentially for you as a customer or you as a partner, depending on who's actually listening to this. And then we're going to spend a few seconds talking about what is coming up in the future for Sperian and Sperian solutions that we have. As we go through that, as part of our introduction, very quickly, I will introduce myself. My name is Ryan Tully. I run our product organization here at Sperian, coming from approximately 11 years in this and adjacent spaces, such as data access governance and similar. Joining me today is Matthew Barnett. Matthew, if you wouldn't mind taking a second to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Matthew Barnett. I'm Senior Technical Product Manager here at Sperian. I've been here about 4 years, and I've been doing this product management thing for a little while.
Fantastic. Matthew and I are going to go back and forth a little bit today and the different things that you're going to see. So you expect to hear from both of us as we go. So first off, I want to talk about this new feature, custom reporting. And custom reporting has a little bit of a background on why we're looking at this and why we think it's relevant. We're going to reference here the IBM Ponemon Institute study, the Concept of Data Breach study in 2022, and it found that 53% of the organizations that they evaluated and they studied weren't prioritizing risk, threats, and impacts based on risk quantification. More specifically, they weren't actually grabbing the information that they need to go and to do the appropriate analysis on what mattered in terms of evaluation of the sensitive information within the organization, or more specifically, the data that was relevant for a potential data breach scenario. The organizations that were looking at it and they were quantifying it and they were prioritizing how they managed it had a smaller impact when it came to an overall data breach than those that were not. So there's our quantitative measuring that says you have to figure this out and you have to do a level of reporting on the sensitive information or the secure information in your environment in order to ensure that if a breach happens or when a breach happens, you have the smallest level of impact to your organization as possible. That's sort of part one of this. Part two that we're talking about is around how big of a concern that cybersecurity is right now. So cyber attacks are becoming more costly, they're becoming more frequent, they're becoming more sophisticated, and data privacy regulations have been expanding globally. This is causing organizations to face increasing risks from all the sensitive data that they collect and store, and that goes back to our point about wanting to be able to report on it and being able to want to quantify it. So protecting sensitive data is critical for maintaining the trust of customers, investors, and other stakeholders, as well as avoiding legal, reputational, and financial damage. Consequently, cybersecurity and management of sensitive data is increasing at the board level, and 90% of security and risk management leaders that were surveyed have reported to the board at least once in the last year. To inform the strategic oversight, these leaders need to understand the types of sensitive information the company is collecting, processing, and storing, as well as the risks associated with each type of data that they have. This might include personally identifiable information, PII, such as names, addresses, social security number. It may include financial data, such as credit card numbers, bank account information, or it may include confidential business information, such as trade secrets and intellectual property. So it's important to outline what a company's current data security practices are and how it looks at these different data types and help identify any gaps or vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. Lastly, with board directors and executives recognizing the strong correlation between cybersecurity and business health, executive leadership is increasingly focused on understanding and managing cyber risks through effective risk management and governance practices. They want to see risk and security financial impact and the likelihood of damage. all of this quantification comes down to simply say, we need a way for organizations to visualize and quantify the type of risk that they have in their environment based on the sensitivity and the security of that data. Therein comes our custom reporting capability that we're rolling out in our product. Now, this is designed to help you identify standard reports that you can visualize in the application, that you can visualize and download and send to users, that you can schedule to deliver to users on a scheduled basis, frequent basis, on the cadence that makes the most sense to you as an organization, but also to concatenate all of the different data points across your Experian sensitive data platform to say, this is what matters to me and what matters to members of my organization. So this way we're delivering the highest level of value in the way that makes sense to you as a company, as an organization. And we're going to take a little bit to go through that and talk about that. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to hand this over to Matthew. Matthew, do you mind taking us through for a little bit what custom reporting looks like in our tool and the value that we can see associated with that?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. Let me get this set up real quick. And I'd love to show this. All right, when we first log in, I should take a moment to load there. All right, when we first get logged in, customers are always going to be put here on our Spyglass dashboard. So when we talk about some of our reporting, fun to note, we do have a series of dashboards where we have some already canned reporting in place. But when it comes to the custom reports and identifying those key findings that Ryan's been talking about, really the custom reports are key. And you can do that by selecting the custom item from the navigation menu. And once we get there, we land on a list of all the existing custom reports. I'll pull up a couple of here that we can go ahead and take a look at. For example, we have weekly scan reports. I'll go ahead and open that one up. And we can get a sense of a couple of different things. One, we're now viewing this inside the application. We can certainly export this out, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But when you're viewing in the application, a few things are important. One, it's always going to load the first 100 results, and you can page through those at the bottom of the page. This particular result is relatively small, or report is relatively small, and only has 38 rows. But what we get here is a report that's going to deliver a list of all scans and some of the key information associated with that scan. For instance, start and end date, the target that's associated, the agent that's associated, the location count, and we have a match count. So here we can see over the last week, the list of scans that have taken place and some of the key highlights from those scans. Something else you'll notice when the data comes in, it looks like this first scan here, the crash dummy test. This is part of our internal testing of the feature itself. It looks like it's actually 3 separate scans, but it's not. And something to highlight through that is really a key understanding of some of the data that you're going to be pulling up. It's not because it is one scan that it uses 3 agents to conduct the scan. And you'll see the start time coincides with each one of the individual agents. You can also tell that they're different agents because they have a different number here. We have 68, 65, and 63. Each one of these are representing the individual agents. And so this third agent here, it's actually scanning 486 locations and has a match count of 806. So we can see that through the process of including multiple agents, we actually get a fairly short scan time given the total volume of locations that we've scanned across the one endpoint that we're looking at here. And you can tell that again by your start and end times across the board here. Some other items that we can take a look at that we've had historically, some of our customers, we're big fans of the, what is this? Whoops. Sensitive data summary. So we actually had a report that was a pre-canned report in our environment once before. I'm going to let that load and circle back to it. And that was a sensitive summary and target details. So with that, we also have target details report that we'll pull up. And I'm going to go back here and I'll go ahead and pull up this June target report as well. And a couple of things you'll notice as we load here. One, this is a pretty simple report. It's just a list of targets. But also, every time I open up a new report, you'll see it populates a new tab across the top. As I select these, you can also see some of these are going to take a little while to load. And we have this counter here to highlight to you that it's not quite as long as you may feel like. Sometimes 10 seconds can feel like 30 and 30 seconds can feel like 2 minutes. Having this helps us gauge a couple of different things. One, how long have you actually been waiting? And two, you'll see that most of our reports actually don't take that long to load. This one was about 30 seconds. Depending on that complexity and the volume of data that you're pulling, we've seen this take up to, I think, 6 minutes is what we've had in a environment similar to a customer environment where you have a really, really large data set. What we're dealing with here is about 6,000 items. When you are loading about 400 million items, again, that's when we're looking at about 6 to 7 minutes. But again, as you highlight that, or I want to highlight, as we open these up, I can click back and forth between the two of these, whether or not they're loading, and I can start viewing some of that data. But speaking of larger data sets, the sensitive data summary and the target details item, they're both around 6,000 results here. And that becomes a little bit lofty. And again, if we want to apply this to a little more real world situation, we have 400 million options, that becomes very unwieldy really, really quickly. And first, we'll talk about why is the data set so large. One, we have a list of targets. You'll see this is the exact same target over and over again. A target being something like individual user workstation. It could be a SharePoint site. It could be a database. Whatever that is, that would be the target is also going to have a list of locations. Or more specifically, that's going to be a list of files that are inside the application or inside the targets that are being scanned. And we list that as a location because it is going to list the full file path. For this one, we're also going to have things like your file type, your file owner, the data type, file size, match count, first time that it was found, the last time that it was found, date created, date modified, time, the list goes on, right? So there's a lot of data here. But note, you're going to have a row for each and every individual location that's identified here. And if you don't aggregate your match count, you're also going to have a list for every single match that's in there. And that can get really large really, really quickly. So as we manage that data, a couple key things to reference. One, as I pan back and forth through these, I can only open 5 of these at a time. Before I get off this list, I want to highlight that. You can only open 5 different reports at a time. I can pan left and right up here at the top, and I can close any one of these out with the X. But something else I want to highlight is as I go through these, I can go to the custom reports list, and I can take the target details. Let's say that was one of the larger ones that I had, and I can view my report, but I can also select down here to generate the report. And when I do that, it says a report export has been initiated. This could take several minutes. A good thing to know here is if it is a large report, it could take several minutes, and you don't have to sit here and wait on it. You can go get coffee. You can continue your work day. You can log out of the application, all of that. It's still going to be generating, and it'll send you an email whenever it's ready. Whenever you want to look for that, though, you select the Report Downloads tab, and you can see target details right here at the top of the list. It currently has 0% in progress. If we refresh this, that will update accordingly, and we can capture that as it loads. So while that's thinking, I'm going to go ahead and highlight a couple of other things. So earlier today, I already downloaded the target details. And when I select that, it's going to give me the pretty typical process for downloading a file onto your machine. Each web browser is going to look a little bit different. I'm using Chrome, so this is what mine looks like. A couple things to highlight. It does download that document, that report, as a zip file. So you're going to want to extract all of that. And then once you do, you can pull that file out directly, and you'll have an Excel spreadsheet that you can view. Part of the reason we do that zip file is because you'll note there are some row limitations with Excel. And so what we'll do is we'll create as many spreadsheets as required to get the full volume of data in there. And that will all be neatly zipped up inside that zip file. Excuse me. From there, I can also go ahead and I can create a report. Notice I have this list of reports here.
may be having a small little technical issue. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to jump on in for a second and kind of bring us through some of the things that are coming after the demonstration part here, after this custom report release. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about those. And we'll come on back to the demonstration in just a little bit, if you don't mind. So we're going to swing back to the PowerPoint side for everybody who's following along right now. We're going to talk about upcoming product enhancements. So I want to talk about two major ones that we have coming up in this calendar year. The first one is something called user-level remediation. At least that's our working name right now. The idea behind this user-level remediation piece is an administrator can have a blanket plan for what it looks like for all the sensitive information within an organization. You can take this plan and you can put it down on paper and say, I think that every time I find something that's related to PCI DSS, right, like a credit card number on someone's endpoint, it needs to be destroyed, right? And that's a very good policy to have in place. But as you start getting away from the concept of managing endpoints, and you get into the concept of managing data repositories, having a blanket statement can be a little bit more challenging. For instance, the legal team may need to hold on to that credit card number as part of a legal hold or an e-discovery policy that's going on right now. There could be a handful of different pieces that are in play. And it's something that the administrator may not necessarily know from the IT side. So what we're doing is we're allowing user-level remediation, this new feature, to allow administrators to identify data custodians within their environment, people who will sit back and own a particular part of the organization, a particular part of the data, and they are empowered to only look at that information and determine scanning or not scanning of that data, determine actions that they're going to take on that, whether they're remediation actions like shredding or redaction or something like that. And they are all in accordance with what is made available and what's made allowable by that individual IT administrator. This also allows them to go ahead and get you, we also allow people to go through and say, manage your endpoint, log into this SDP console, and you have full control of what's going on over on your individual endpoint, on your individual laptop that you have here. And you can manage that, control it, et cetera, in addition to any IT policies that are being put into play. This allows you to have additional control and construct. For instance, someone who's utilizing their laptop, their desktop for personal information, who may not, necessarily need to do that, right? Go ahead and check for that and make sure that you aren't controlling some personal information on there that's not necessarily supposed to be in play. It's a really cool feature that's going to be coming later in the year. Keep an eye out as we start going through additional tech talks from our side of the house from when this is going to be showing up. Similarly, keep an eye out for the customer newsletter and the partner newsletters, depending on where you sit, that will help you understand when these features are rolling out. Lastly, in terms of features, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about this one. It's an agent overhaul. So historically speaking, we've been using our agents for a long time. And these agents that we use to scan for information, we've learned a ton over the past 17 years on how to look for sensitive information and do that with the highest industry accuracy rates, right? We've been independently verified at 98.5% accuracy. It's fantastic. We don't want to play with that. We want to go and we want to ensure that we have that same level of accuracy as we go forward. But at the same time, we want to give visualization, real-time visualization to users of, I have found this sensitive information immediately is the first thing that I've done in my scan. What is step 2, right? Once I found it, and maybe that's classification, maybe that's redaction, maybe it's deletion. Either way, I need to take that immediately while I'm going through and also looking for more sensitive information in these repositories. Also, I need to do it faster, right? The world is no longer the conversation about gigabytes and terabytes that we used to be having. Now it's petabytes and yottabytes and exabytes. We need to make sure that we're covering that in the same period of time that we previously have covered terabytes. And so we're going and we're increasing our performance with that same level of accuracy to help users identify information, automatically take action on that information, and provide a visibility into what that actually looks like. So this is going to be really cool. Again, keep your eye out on the customer newsletter space. Keep your eye out on the partner newsletter space. And keep your eye out on our Tech Talk space. And we're going to give you some more information on this as these start coming out later in this calendar year. Lastly, I'm going to go change one last moment over to Matthew. Matthew, if you are in a good spot, let's go and close out some of those demonstration pieces we have. Otherwise, we can sort of end it here.
Absolutely, I am back, and it would not be a live webinar if there wasn't a technical difficulty. So
Of
I'm
course.
glad I'm able to get it back. If I remember correct, I was getting ready to start creating a report and walk through what that process was. Before I do, I actually want to show one more thing here. I actually had scheduled earlier to run the weekly scan report. Because I dropped, I can't verify with you there again, show you that I didn't just generate this report, but it was a scheduled report, and it did schedule right here at 16:20. That being your not standard time, that'll be 4:21 here, or 4:20. I also have, if I go back to my customer reports list, I can generate a report, and I want to go ahead and create that customer report. With this time, I'm going to schedule it, and I'm also going to make this again. I don't know if you guys caught it before. This is going to be a report of scanned data or sensitive data that has been identified on my laptop, or in theory, it would be my laptop. It won't actually be mine. I'll show you what we're doing here, though. I'll call this Matt's workstation. And I only have one capital. Put it there. All right. And this is, we'll just go with sensitive data here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get this set up so that it has a target. So we're going to start with the target. This is going to be how we capture my workstation. Then we're going to go to locations, and I'm going to select the location field. And under matches, I'm going to select the data type. Actually, I want to select the data type name, and I'm going to select match count. And if for any reason I need to update or change the order of these things, I can. I can go to the move up here. I can also move that back down. Also, it automatically populates in the order in which you selected these things. And then there's a few other key items we want to take a look at. I can edit this, and I can change the label if I want to be something other than match count. I personally like match count, so we're going to leave that. But aggregation is something that's very important. What I want to do is aggregate by the sum, and this is going to be getting the sum at match count for each location here. And that's going to be important to get the right data here on the back end of this. The other thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and select not data type name, but we're going to go with target name. And we're going to say that this equals. So right now I'm setting up a filter. I'm going to filter out all other data types that exist and only take a look at mine, or notionally what is mine. We actually have another one here that I want to use because I know it has some good data on it. Then we'll go ahead to next. And I can select no schedule and export manually. So I can go to that manual export process that we showed you before, or I can go ahead and select start export. And this is me scheduling when and what time I want to do this. So if I want to go ahead and view this, let's say weekly, I can go ahead and do that. And we'll just go with a start time of, we'll say 6 o'clock, and 6:21, I guess what that went with. And we'll leave that there. All right, 6:21. This evening, it's going to auto-generate, and I could do no reoccurrence, or I could set this to go out every 30 days. I could make that weeks, a month, and then I can also specify if I don't do a day period like this. Let's say I go with weeks, and I'm going to go once. Now we're looking at once a week, and I'm going to generate that on Thursdays. And then I can also schedule a date for this to expire. I just want this to run on forever, so I'm not going to set an expire date, and we'll move to next. So next I have my summary, a couple of important things here when we have the name, description, and the schedule data here, but also we have a preview. Right now the preview just says sample data everywhere, and it does list the targets, the columns that I selected in the order that I selected them. But I also have a button where I can generate my report preview. The reason this is important, again, is some of these will take just a little while to do. And so if it's going to take a couple of minutes, we want to go ahead and inform customers that might be the case. I'm going to confirm. I know this one doesn't take that long, but if it does, I still have the option to save and finish and not wait on it to load if I don't want to. So we're going to go ahead and hit our finish and save. And I selected, go to this Matt's workstation, and we'll view this one real quick. Again, it's going to take just a second. And so now what I have is the target name. The target is going to be my workstation all the way down the list. I also have a list of locations, a list of data types, and a data type count by location. You can see a series of credit card numbers were found here, dates of birth, another date of birth, more credit card information. Looks like I have a lot of financial data and personal and dates of birth here on my machine. And so what this allows me to do is I can do a regular audit of my own machine through the scan process, but I personally, as the machine owner, can generate a report and see exactly what it is that's being found on my machine. Notably, this is another thing that we can do through our playbook process, and we can assign to specific individuals to remediate that data. I could do that. And I think that goes in hand with what Ryan was just speaking about as well, with that user level remediation. That's something that can be assigned directly to me, the machine owner or the workstation owner, the data owner, if you will, and I can manage all of that sensitive data myself. But we do also have a means for me to generate that report. And I can tell my boss, hey, I don't have any data, or hey, here's a list of data I have, and I'm going to get right on remediating that. Excuse me. So with that is my demo. Again, I apologize for that glitch there, but I'm glad we were able to get back on and work it all out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. That was great, and you know how it always goes, right? Death by demo here. It's a common thing. So. Not a problem in the slightest. We were actually trying our best to answer questions as they came in too, so I think we've covered them all. With that in mind, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come along for today, whether you're watching it live or you're watching this recorded. And stay tuned to future tech talks that we have and future presentations that we'll be doing on other great features as they go. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of the day.
Absolutely. Thanks all.